Dr. Pintea is Vice President of Conservation Science at the Jane Goodall Institute. He holds a PhD in conservation biology from the University of Minnesota and an MS in zoology from Moscow State University. He integrates remote sensing data with on-the-ground observations and surveys of chimpanzees and their habitats. He trains JGI staff and local community in the uses of these tools and collaborates with them and relevant government officials in the development and implementation of conservation action plans. He'll be telling us about Global Forest Watch mobile application, ground truthing deforestation alerts in Uganda using Open Data Kit and Google Maps engine.
Well, thank you, Tal. It's with such a great joy I'm here to hear all the stories coming from how you're using technology in your fields. And I wanted to share with you one story. Yesterday you saw how exciting and inspiring Gombe and Jane Goodall's story is. What excites me, inspires me about Gombe as well is the opportunity to be for 14 years seeing how change is actually happening in Gombe. So in 2001, I found myself part of this team of Tanzania National Parks for the first time mapping Gombe from on the ground with GPS. It was not mapped because of the conflict between the people and the park, which had been so permanent in so many protected areas. We found ourselves on this grassy hill called Kintunda Hill, which is the southeastern border of the park. And this is how it looked in 2001. And this is how I found it in 2014 when we were there with Google Street View team. So this is very exciting to see these changes, how this grassy hill now is having more shrubs and trees coming up. And you can see it yourself in Street View. You can use the time slider in Google Earth and see actually that the community forest reserves connected to Gombe, like this one in 2005 looked like this. And there is reforestation happening, the same thing in other villages. So this is very inspiring. I don't have time to go in details how that reforestation happened, but of course it's a very long-term efforts with communities to do land use planning, implement and manage those land use plans and measure success. And I wanted just to say that technology played a very important role. And in particular, one technology which I'm talking to you today is ODK and Open Data Kit. In Gombe, Tanzania, Uganda, Eastern DRC, we show that ODK really works with local communities. It does work with rangers. We're implementing ODK across Tanzania, Uganda, and Eastern DRC, and also in Congo. And we're bringing this to our partners, to our scientists and researchers. See, here are academic scientists, for example, running a field site, which are also started using this tool. And through networks of our partners, such as PASA, who work in 50 different countries in Africa, working with orphan chimpanzees and other great apes, they're going to scale up now this as well to their members. So it's really taking off. It's incredibly amazing to be part of this. And when we look at the big mission of the Jane Goodall Institute to protect 85% of chimpanzees, we're just humbled about how long it takes to achieve change on the ground, but also inspired by the opportunity which tools like ODK and other can bring. So at the center of JGI work in Africa, it's always local communities. We always have to ask ourselves how, like a local stakeholder, how this private forest owners in Uganda, who has a small forest reserve, which is very important for his livelihood, and it happened to be very important for chimps, because when you add more than 1,800 private forest owners, which have been met by mobile technology as well, you'll see that they have a very important role to connect two major forest patches in western Uganda, which chimpanzees still use to connect. Now, that private forest owner is part of 15 private forest owner associations who organize themselves to co-manage their forest reserves as one entire kind of connected habitat. The problem is that they know what happens on their forest reserve. They don't know what happens on their neighbor's forest reserve. And they all signed that they would like to protect the trees. So as a private forest owner associations, they have the power actually to be informed and manage using, for example, deforestation alerts, so powerful as you saw from Global Forest Watch. This is deforestation, for example, alerts happening in this area. The problem is that the deforestation alerts inaccessible for those private forest owners because of a lot of capacity issues. One thing which we have been doing with private forest owners as well is already implementing ODK and tablets. So that's why this idea came out. Why not extend that and connect this powerful tool on the ground to the deforestation alerts? We already tested this extensively over the last year and a half by looking how deforestation alerts generated by scientists from different groups using different sensors, how that interacts with the scale at which local users are relating as well, and in terms of habitat change. So here's an example of a forest patch, which in 2012 was still, you still can see it on Google Earth, as mapped by digital globe satellite imagery. In red, you see 2 deforestation alerts. Actually, there are 4 around in the neighborhood, coming from the Global Forest Watch. And when we went on the ground with ODK, you can see basically what they found. That forest patch is not there anymore. It got converted to a tobacco farm. So the big idea is that through connecting Global Forest Watch through an API to download data and ability to download deforestation alerts, you'll be able to download the imagery and store it locally as base maps. And the ability to then use ODK functionality to collect data and report back through Maps Engine, we'll be able to connect this network of community forest owners and communities and researchers and other people on the ground who are actually watching what's happening to the forest, to this global effort in improving transparency and monitoring of the forest and chimpanzee habitats. This is just a quick kind of snapshot. This is still work in process, but the idea is that you'll be able to have these deforestation alerts coming up as red squares, and you'll show where you are, for example, and you'll have a navigation way to navigate in order to get to the deforestation alert and then collect an ODK form and report it back. Again, this is the same forest patch. What we're going to do is we're going to overlay a grid of 30-meter resolution. And this grid, it will allow, in a sort of like a game way, it will allow the users on the ground to visit every grid in order to then find the deforestation, like in this case. Right now, we're in the first phase of implementing this app. We expect to have the first beta version sometimes by the first week of November. Then we'll bring it to the IUCN Congress, World Parks Congress in Australia. And also, we'll bring it to Uganda to a couple of user groups which we have been working in. And hopefully, sometimes by next year, this app will be available to anyone to download and use. So I'm very excited to, if you're thinking that this app would work for you and you have an application, please talk to me and with Tanya, because I forgot to mention that all this work is happening in this very strong partnership which we have since 2009 around mobile technology. So please talk to me and Tanya about it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Pintea.
It's 60 days old, so you're just basically going out and documenting what has happened and hope to push change for the future to prevent that?
So, thank you. So yes, the deforestation alerts are coming right now in 2 different ways. You have monthly deforestation alerts coming from Forma, and you have annual deforestation alerts coming from Matt Hansen. And we expect that with more groups, remote sensing groups joining in, for example, Matt Hansen, maybe we'll talk tomorrow, that already they expect that to maybe increase to near real time. So once the Lancet image collects it, you'll have a new alert for specific areas. But I think what's the most important part here is that it's almost near real time for communities, because instead of showing up with a map 5 years after deforestation event saying, oh, by the way, you're doing a lot of work, but by the way, you're still losing forest, here they have an opportunity to say, hey, something happened a month ago. Can I go check it out, what's going on? So then there is an increasing likelihood that actually they can do something about and move towards, so this is one idea. Exactly. But another idea behind here, which is also equally important, is it's not just ground truthing deforestation, is providing intelligence for the forest monitors and communities to increase the effectiveness in covering more randomly and uniformly the areas which they're supposed to patrol anyway. So I think that has an equally important role for us of this deforestation alert.
Feedback loop.
Exactly.
Great.
Thank you.